Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we uncover the hidden scripts behind the corporate world. Get ready for some shareholder shakeups and surprise votes, because today we are diving deep into Wave Life Sciences' latest report. Wave Life Sciences is a company trying to make waves in the biotech industry, focusing on developing new medicines. Today we're looking at their report from August 2025, which covers some pretty interesting shareholder incentivize their employees. So the first big piece of news is that the shareholders gave the thumbs up to giving more stock options. Think of it like this: the company wants to be able to give out more company shares as rewards to its employees and leaders. They're increasing the number of these shares by a huge amount, 8 million shares to be exact. This is usually done to keep talented people happy and motivated, especially in a competitive field like biotech. It's a way to say, hey, if you help us succeed, you'll benefit directly through owning a piece of the company. Now let's talk about the big shareholder meeting that happened on August 5, 2025. This is where all the big decisions get made by the people who own the company, which are the shareholders. It's like a yearly check-in to make sure everyone's on the same page. And guess what? A massive number of shareholders showed up or sent their votes. Essentially, wow, 17% of all the shares that could be voted were represented at this meeting. That's a super strong turnout, indicating that shareholders are really paying attention and care a lot about what's going on at Wave Life Sciences. This high level of participation shows pretty strong engagement. First up was a vote on who gets to be on the board of directors. These are the people who guide the company's big picture strategy. The shareholders decided to re-elect all 9 of the current directors. This means they have confidence in the current leadership's ability to steer the company. Looking at the numbers, they were all re-elected by a pretty significant margin, which is good news for the board. For example, most of them received over 12.9 of the current directors. This means they have confidence in the current leadership's ability to steer the company. Looking at the numbers, they were all re-elected by a pretty significant margin, which is good news for the board. For example, most of them received over 12.11 in number million, which is still a landslide. Next, the shareholders had to vote on who counts the company's money. They reappointed KPMG LF their independent auditor. This is basically like hiring a trusted accountant to make sure all the financial reporting is correct and honest. A huge majority approved this with over 144 million votes in favour. This is a standard but important vote to ensure transparency and trust in the company's financial statements. Then came a vote on how the directors who are not full-time employees get paid. This covers their compensation in the form of cash and company stock. The shareholders approved this with nearly 130.5 million votes for it. This shows that the shareholders are comfortable with how the company is compensating its external board members, keeping them aligned with the company's performance. Remember that earlier mention of giving out more stock options? Well, this is the formal vote on that. Shareholders approved the amendment to the 2021 Equity Incentive Plan. While the majority voted for it, there was a notable chunk, around 24.6 million voices against it. This is interesting. A good chunk of shareholders are hesitant about this. It suggests some shareholders might be concerned about dilution or the potential cost of these stock awards to existing shareholders. It's a sign that perhaps some investors want to see more concrete results before agreeing to such a large increase in equity grants. Following on from the equity plan vote, the shareholders also gave the directors the power to issue more company shares. This is a general permission slip for the board to sell shares if they need to raise more money or for other company purposes. Again, a good number voted for this, about 102 million shares, but there were also nearly 28.5 million votes against it. This shows a similar theme to the previous proposal. A significant portion of shareholders are cautious about further share issuance. They might be worried about their ownership stake being diluted, or they might want more clarity on how these shares will be used. Now, for a vote that's often closely watched, the pay of the top executives. Shareholders voted on the company's executive compensation. They approved it with a very strong majority, almost 130 million votes in favour. This basically means shareholders are saying they're okay with how the top brass is being paid. And finally, the shareholders decided on how often they want to vote on executive pay in the future. They overwhelmingly chose to vote on it every year. Over 130 million votes were cast for an annual vote. This indicates a preference for regular oversight on executive compensation, making sure it stays aligned with company performance and shareholder interests. The board has listened to this, and they're going to hold these executive pay votes every year. This is a good sign of responsiveness and transparency with the shareholders. So what's our take on this finding from Wave Life Sciences? On one hand, the strong shareholder turnout and re-election of directors show a stable and engaged shareholder base that generally trusts the current leadership. The approval of executive pay and the decision for annual pay votes indicates a commitment to good governance. However, the significant number of votes against the increase in stock options and the general authorization to issue shares suggests there's a segment of investors who want to see more concrete proof of performance improvements before agreeing to potentially dilute their ownership. It's a company that's clearly seeking ways to motivate its team and fund its growth, but it will need to clearly communicate how these decisions will benefit shareholders directly and how it plans to deliver on its promises to get everyone fully on board. The company is making moves to grow. All these incentives and authorization to issue shares suggest there's a segment of investors who want to see more concrete proof of performance improvements before agreeing to potentially dilute their ownership. It's a company that's clearly seeking ways to motivate shareholders to get everyone fully on board. The company is making moves to grow. All these incentives and authorizations are aimed. Alright, that's our breakdown of Wave Life Sciences' latest filing. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.